I am Morgan.
And I'm Jake, and this is
Neverland Navigation Radio.
where we listen along to what are, in our opinion, the best ride narrations throughout the history of Walt Disney World.
Yeah, or as far back as we have experience with.
Yeah, that's true. We're obviously going to have a little bit. This is not a scientific list. This is an opinion piece.
Yeah.
Based on we primarily attended Disney when. In what years?
For me, I've attended Disney in the 90s and then up until now. I mean, I attended in the 80s, but I don't remember it.
Okay, right. Yeah. And I would say
For you, more like 2000s?
the early 2000s till now is really the time I've spent in the parks. So I think I'll have biases toward
Newer?
toward narrations that were available in the park at the time.
That makes sense.
So things that existed before my time but may have been incredibly narrated.
Yes.
I'm probably, unfortunately, unless they stuck out from my knowledge of them researching them, then they're probably not.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? And if anything's before like the 90s and I don't remember it, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to rank it. That wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are some on my list that I didn't ever get to experience. I think maybe just one firsthand, but I'm very familiar with the narration of it because it's iconic.
Iconic, yeah.
Right.
Anything iconic is what made the list for me.
I'm sure we're going to have multiple entries that are the same, but how they match up and where they are on the list might be interesting. And then I have a couple honorable mentions as well.
I do too.
Something worth mentioning before we start is that there are multiple forms of narration that we both considered when assembling our list.
This is tough because, like, what I might consider narration, you might consider what? Like, part of the story.
Oh, sure. Dialogue.
Yeah.
It
was hard.
Complicated because sometimes it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. I tried to leave out anything that wasn't ongoing.
Yeah.
Did you leave out anything? Because there are some iconic phrases that happen during the ride, like on Big Thunder Mountain where he's like, this is the wildest ride in the wilderness. And you're like, oh my God, that's such an iconic, almost like a piece of narration because it happens while you're on the ride.
Right.
But then there's no more narration while you're on the ride, so I left it out.
I was on that exact same train of thought, considering Big Thunder Mountain, and that's why I didn't end up making my list.
Yeah, right. And it's like, it's not Q.
No.
So it didn't make our Q list, but it's not narration.
Yeah.
Because it's weird.
Safety spiel.
Yeah.
Should we do an episode for safety spiels?
It would be probably a mini episode, do you think?
The one I probably remember the most is the Primeval War one.
Because really?
When you were stuck there, it would play over. It wasn't like by car. Yeah. It was just a speaker blaring out the safety instructions over and over again.
I was not lucky enough to have that experience.
Yeah, if you wrote it enough, we wrote it a lot because the ride...
I can't believe you wrote it a lot.
Well, as a child.
Oh, yeah?
The wait time was super minimal. We were 3 boys who wanted to do roller coasters. We wrote it all the time.
Really?
Yeah. We didn't have to worry about chiropractors and stuff back then. You know?
Yeah.
As an adult.
Or motion sickness, I guess.
Or motion sickness.
Maybe that's why you're motion sick now.
Because I got taught shaken baby syndrome. New t-shirt on the Neverland Navigation Etsy shop. This week the t-shirt will be Primeval World gave me shaken baby syndrome. Okay, we won't.
In real life, I kind of was thinking about while I was doing this, making a shirt that had iconic sayings on it, just a bunch.
Ooh,
kind of like in a fun design.
In different fonts.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Oh, that would be so cute.
We'll have to do that later.
Look for it on the eventually one day on the Neverland Navigation Etsy shop. Okay, should we just dive in then?
Sure.
Oh, I guess we should finish this thought. Right, different types of narration between live narrators. Some rides have live on-board narrators, which is like...
Some used to have live on-board narration, switched to, like...
Pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded, yeah.
Which is the most common.
Yeah.
Type. Pre-recorded.
Sure, they don't have to pay a cast member.
Yeah. And then there's some, like we were talking about, where it's like foggy, blurring the lines between narration and like plot.
Yes.
Dialogue. So those are all considered, I guess, in here to some degree.
Yeah.
And I'm open to being persuaded.
Yeah, one of the ones on my list, we were just having a discussion with like our friends and family, and I found out that one of the ones on my list is apparently debatable.
Oh, well, we'll get into the debate.
Yeah.
That's what this podcast is for.
Yeah.
All right, should we start from number 10?
Yeah, sure. Are we going to do... I think maybe we don't mention the honorable mentions because we might wind up mentioning them in our list. Yeah, okay. Right. Did you want to start?
Sure. Now, this one is going to be... The reason it's at the bottom of my list probably is because...
It's debatable?
It's debatable.
My number 10 is debatable, too.
I put Star Tours.
Old Star Tours?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's on my honorable mentions list.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't know. Yes, okay, I guess I see in this sense how it's debatable because...
He's not really... per se narrating.
Right, but
he's not
actually is, though. You know what I mean?
He is your guy.
Especially the old one.
Right.
Were you specifically talking about the old one?
I was. I don't care about the C-3PO dialogue.
Okay, but it is kind of the same basic idea.
It is. It's very much there, a part of the story and leading you through it.
Yes.
But they're not, disembodied voice guiding you from scene to scene.
Yes.
So it's a little different. That's why it's at the bottom for me, because I don't think that I would even classically define it as narration, but I do think that he's your guide.
Yeah,
and I think the dialogue is so iconic.
Yes, it's so iconic.
Comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think...
Is this your first time flying? Mine too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot iconic. Of good, memorable bits of dialogue in there.
Yeah.
The voice acting from Paul Rubens.
Yes, right.
Phenomenal.
And that was an original character for the ride, which for me is why this made the list, but not really the new one. Mm-hmm. Although I do like the new one. I don't dislike it, but I have so much love for the old one and the original character and the Paul Rubens voice that it's a big staple in my Disney nostalgia.
If you never got to experience this in Tomorrowland at Disneyland, or as we know it in Hollywood Studios, MGM. Disney MGM Studios.
I was like in MGM.
Star Tours was very similar to it is now, a simulator ride that's Star Wars themed. But it used to be narrated by a bumbling novice accidental pilot named Captain Rex. Who kind of took you through your misadventures in the Star Wars universe. Now it's the same concept, but narrated by C-3PO. See, I say narrated instinctually.
Yeah, see? Piloted by C-3PO, yeah.
That might be better. Piloted by C-3PO. But that original version, first of all, you gotta love, and I won't stray too far, but first of all, you gotta love that it was all practically created with models.
Yes.
The film. That's so cool and interesting. And the original charming performance of Paul Rubens doing the voice of Captain Rex are what made that attraction so endearing to me in the first place.
Absolutely.
Right. All right, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is Dinosaur.
Whoa!
Yeah, debatable, I know. Is it on your list at all?
No.
Because you thought it didn't count.
Right, but I think if I'm including Star Tours, then I think it's silly for me not to have included Dinosaur, because it's the same kind of thing. Although you don't see Dr. Seeker throughout your journey.
No, but a lot of these you don't see.
Right, which I think makes it kind of more
narration.
Yeah. So yeah, Dinosaur I could definitely see.
Yeah, so Dr. Seeker is a original character, and he is sort of your guide, guiding you through your time travel.
Right.
So I felt like you do hear him throughout the ride. If it had just been the beginning and the end, then maybe no. But I also think that some of the lines are iconic. Even the right, left.
Yeah.
It's something that I think about anytime anybody says right and then left. You know what I mean?
Same. We're not going to make it.
Yeah.
We're not going to make it.
Right. There are certain things like that I just find to be, I don't know, things you think about a lot.
I love that ride. I'm so sad it's going away.
Yeah. Could be years before it goes away, though, right?
That's very true. I'm definitely enjoying getting to ride it while I can.
Yeah.
The narration is good. It feels so suspenseful when you're in there because it's so dark and there's so much movement and action. And that ride vehicle is it moves you so much. It's so herky-jerky.
Yeah.
That that I think the like panicked action movie narration from Dr. Seeker, like in your speakers, adds to the feel of like thrill and danger.
Yeah.
So it plays an important role in the attraction as well, which I think gives it points too.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Dinosaur.
So that's my number 10.
Countdown to Extinction. My number 9 is The People Mover.
Yeah, that's on my list too.
Now, which version... Is there a particular version of the narration that strikes you as iconic? Or do you think just in general, the sounds of the narration around Tomorrowland?
So definitely just in general, but I am really, really fond of the newest one, which I almost never say as somebody with like all of this decades old love of Disney. I usually lean towards nostalgic over what's new, but in this case I really like, but it's kind of because it's nostalgic, because the new narration mentions a bunch of the old stuff, but he mentions it in ways that you would only know it if you knew it. Yep. Because like he says at one point, now is the time, now is the best time, and that's from the song from Carousel of Progress from decades ago,
right? That
you only know if you know. He doesn't say like Carousel of Progress. He says a specific line from a song that's gone. You know what I mean? I love that.
When they replaced Big Bright Beautiful Tomorrow,
this is my number 6, by the way.
For the GE sponsorship, it was that song, and now obviously they've reinstated Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. But it's cool that that song, for all of those who remember it from the time that it was in the Carousel of Progress, they get to hear.
You mean they've reinstated? Oh, I see. Yes. Got it.
Now that they have the original song back, for those who remember, now is the time of your life, whatever the song is called.
Yeah.
It's cool that they get to listen to that phrase in the park again. It's like a little wink to say, we remember too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, he mentions a bunch of things. Like, I can't even name them all right now off the top of my head. I was trying to do that for my family members. And there are even a few that I had to look up.
Flight to the Moon is one of them.
Right. Flight to the Moon was the one I didn't know, and I had to look up.
Oh,
because I didn't know that ride.
Right. Flight to the Moon. Wow. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a history of Tomorrowland at some point, because there's some really interesting attractions that came and went through there.
We've done a history of Tomorrowland, but we'd have to do another one. Yeah, because you know, there's so many.
Right. We've only done one each.
Yeah.
Time to double dip.
Yeah.
All right. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Kilimanjaro Safaris.
It's in my honorable mentions.
Oh, cool.
What?
So this one's good because it's live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which means it's going to be different every time you go on this ride. Mm-hmm. I like it when they incorporate humor, which is not every time, but when they do, and this is why it's at the bottom of my list. If it was part of the job description to use humor like it is on Jungle Cruise, I think it would be higher on my list because it would be happening every time, whether it was good or not as good. But in this one, I think that they're not told to do humor, but then a lot of them just choose to.
That definitely is the vibe that I get. And I agree that if it were more humorous, then I would be more inclined to put it higher on my list. The reason that it is so low on my list is because I find it particularly not Disney-like.
It's very educational.
For it to be so dry.
I like my education with some humor.
Yeah, no Lion King
Bill Nye.
Jokes, no nothing. I mean, sometimes they throw them in.
So it depends on who you get. Yeah,
but they don't feel scripted.
And it doesn't feel like it feels like that's just that cast member's particular personality, not that they're being told to do that. So,
and I think the lack of predictability also maybe bumps us down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's hit or miss.
Do you prefer now or when there was the little bit of scripting with the Little Red poacher edutainment situation?
If you're asking me as a guest, I liked the Big Red scenes because I thought that it was a memorable
It was acting right in front of you.
Yeah. And as a kid, nothing made me care about poaching more than being involved in a poaching rundown
rescue
scenario.
Mission.
Yeah. It very much put you in the heart of the message of the original attraction. So for those reasons, I loved it.
Yeah.
If you're asking me as, you know, if I were a park executive who'd received a lot of feedback that it was scary for kids, it makes it a little bit complicated.
Sure.
Especially being that Animal Kingdom opened with next to no attractions, Kilimanjaro Safari being the headlining one, and then kids go on it and get scared because wasn't one of the animals one of the elephants was dead, wasn't it? That's scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Poaching Girl. And what? People can die in The Lion King. Not people. Lions can die in The Lion King.
Yeah.
Deer can die in Bambi.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta get the message across.
Yeah, it's interesting where they draw the line.
Well, I think theme park attractions, everything outside is so bright and cheery that all of a sudden when you introduce the element of death into the theme park, I think it can be particularly like jarring or scary for kids. So I guess I get it. But Animal Kingdom being so much about conservation, I feel that the headline attraction missing its big conservation message in the way that it used to be present is kind of sad.
Yeah.
It makes me wish that they retooled the storyline instead of completely eliminating it.
Right. Well, I wonder if they felt like it wasn't making much of a difference as far as poaching goes. It's not. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the theme park tourists were going to save the animals.
Yes. Well,
anyway.
Or were the theme park tourists going to become poachers and now they're not? I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. But I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Still, Kilimanjaro Safari, the fact that it's a live narrator taking you through the jungle scenes, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially if you get a good one. Yeah.
All right. Should we move on?
Yeah. Do you have is this your number 9?
This is my number 9 was People Mover. My number 8 is Walt Disney World Railroad.
Okay, this is in my honorable mentions.
Nice. This is all pre-recorded, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean Forever and Ever? I don't know.
Oh, I actually don't know either. I guess I'm speaking about the current version.
Yeah, do you want? I can look it up if you want, but I'm not sure.
That's okay.
I think Michael asked me that earlier when I was talking to him about this list.
The current narration is pre-recorded, and it's a guided tour of all of Walt Disney World from the perimeter, which is fun. But what I like about it is that sometimes there are incidental little skits that they incorporate in, like, oh, Peter Pan and his friends who just landed on the roof of the train, and stuff like that. And you can hear them walking around on the roof. I like the little touches like that. I think it's fun. I think it's very
They
Disney.
Tell a little bit of history too, right?
Yeah, sometimes they get into a little bit of here and there. They get into a little bit of park history, park facts, ride attraction facts. And also it does something, it serves a function that I also enjoy about the monorail, which is that it advertises upcoming attractions, which I think is fun, because when you go back and listen to them, it's kind of cool to hear the way they were describing the rides before they opened.
Yeah, oh, interesting.
They're doing that for Tiana right now. There's a part of
really?
ride. Yeah, when you go through the old Splash Mountain tunnel that's built into the train path, they talk about the upcoming Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And in like 20 years when that ride has been open. The
tunnel is so loud.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always covering my ears.
Yeah, that is probably my least favorite part of the train situation. But that's not the narration's fault.
Right.
So, good job, narrators.
Yeah, okay. So you want me to go to my number 8?
Sure.
Okay, my number 8 is Spaceship Earth.
So low.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. What did James Judi Dench do to you?
Maybe it should be 7.
Well, no, it's okay. If it's 8, it's 8.
Anyway, 6, 7, 8 are all really interchangeable for me. They could have been a tie.
I find that about my list too.
Yeah.
A lot of them are neck and neck.
Yeah. So it was much higher on your list, I take it.
I wish I would have known.
Oh my gosh, it's on my list twice.
Oh no. You love it so much. It's on there twice.
So much,
it's my number 5.
Okay, it was on my number 5 too, but now I just named it as 8. So
all right. Well, hey, we can bump up one of your honorable mentions.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna bump up one that's not on your list, probably.
Which one?
Maelstrom.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
So Maelstrom had like a narration going through it that I wouldn't consider like you don't see that person. You know what I mean? It's really a narration.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a little like monotone, but he had like a fun Norwegian accent and a deep kind of scary sound, like serious, scary voice.
Right.
And I just think it's a big part of what you remember when you remember Maelstrom is this guy telling you what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Epcot, I think, in an era where it didn't have thrill rides, Maelstrom was about as close as you could get for a while. And I think that the narration was memorable because of the accent and because it played into the whole idea that you were watching their folk history come alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about it because I just in the moment had forgotten that ride even had narration, but I can hear the
it.
voice in my head.
Yeah.
So definitely counts for something.
Yeah.
Surely.
All right.
Hey, good for Maelstrom. Now that's what Frozen Ever After.
Yeah.
Not narrated at all.
No.
Guided by several animatronics, but not narrated. Okay. If you'd like, I can do my number 7.
Okay.
Which is Living with the Land.
Okay, I just messed up my list so much.
No.
Okay, it's okay. Living with the Land. Living with the Land is just in my honorable mentions. Yeah.
No.
Yes. Go on, talk about it.
It's got everything.
Okay.
Entertainment.
Are you talking about the new one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Entertainment.
And by that I mean, I guess it's really not that entertaining when you really think about it.
Well, I'm not saying it's not entertaining.
It's a little bit dry, like the Kilimanjaro narration, where it's mostly science and fact based. There is some fun. First of all, I like how even the tone is, and then all throughout the ride, I appreciate that it's told stylistically through the dry and arid landscape. It's very dramatic.
Okay.
You know what I mean when he's saying the line. So I like that. That's a little bit more stylized than say. I hate to hate on these Kilimanjaro safari guides, but I'm just saying for a ride that's about the environment in the same way that Kilimanjaro is about animals, I appreciate that there's some drama in the language. And then at the very end, he delivers that signature line. Only then will we truly be living with the land. And I really think
you find that to be an iconic line.
I think it really takes it home.
Okay. So at one point there was a live narrator.
Right. I don't think I got to maybe I did.
I don't remember it either, so I'm looking it up. The cast member, oh yeah, early 90s. I don't think you would, but I'm still. Anyway, yeah, so at one point there was an actual live narrator. I'm not gonna spend time figuring this out right now, but anyway, yeah, I don't really remember that. So for my entire memory, it's been the pre-recorded voiceover.
Yeah, the pre-recorded voiceover is definitely the one I know the best.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with that. I like the pre-recorded.
You love that line?
I love that one line. If anything, I do wish that they were still alive. Because I bet perhaps it was just a live narrator for the greenhouse scenes. And during the indoor sequences, I think it was always pre-recorded, I want to say. Maybe that's wrong.
I feel like they might have sat down during parts that weren't.
Yes, I'm remembering sitting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current narration is
Or
good.
I'm making that up in my brain.
That's all right.
But yeah, okay. So that used to be live. Now it's. I can't believe that was that high on your list, though.
Yeah, maybe it is a little too high.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want me to go to my next one?
Sure.
What number are we on? 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Since I kind of jumped us up, but we didn't talk about Spaceship Earth yet. So I'm not. That's my number 5. So my number 7 is Carousel of Progress. Is that debatable?
I didn't include any shows on my list at all.
Yeah, I know, but I kind of don't. I feel like this is more than a show.
It moves.
It moves.
It moves. The only thing that did keep it off my list was the show element. The fact that I felt like...
text Michael? Sorry.
What am I saying?
Never mind.
Okay. The fact that the Carousel of Progress is like a show that you remain seated for.
Yeah, but
I don't know. That took me out.
But don't you think that guy that is like the host, he's kind of the narrator, or is that? See, I guess it's totally debatable.
Yeah, I guess this is, but yeah, I mean, if you approach it from the perspective that he is the narrator, then he certainly does a good job of narrating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what, and it's kind of exciting, and yeah, I don't know. I just thought I thought about it and I was like, does this count? Does this not count? But I think that I put it on there. Why not? You know what I mean?
Right. The live narration on Living with the Land lasted until
you found it
2006.
Okay.
For portions of the ride. So live narrators officially ended.
So I should remember this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like I do remember it, but I also feel like the live narration. And this says there was a live narrator for portions of the ride until 2006.
So you're right.
So it must have been a combination of onboard and live. Like the Great Movie Ride in the end of its life.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Carousel of Progress. What number are we on anyway?
7.
7? Well, my 7 was Living with the Land, right? So now we should go to 6.
Yeah.
All right, my number 6 is Horizons.
Oh, okay. That's way higher on my list,
really?
But that's because you don't remember it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You didn't talk about Spaceship Earth. I won't talk about Horizons.
Well, you can.
Do you like remember a bunch of it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then
I know, but there's not really much to say. You know what I mean? It was narrate. Okay. Well, should I talk about it now?
Yeah, why not?
So it was narrated by a female and a male. As far as I know, neither of them were like particularly famous. Like Spaceship Earth has always had famous narrators. So if they were famous, it wasn't for anything I knew them for.
No, I think these were just characters. They were like a husband and wife.
Yes, and they're from the future. Right? So, but you don't know that at the beginning, and they're just kind of like narrating you through these scenes that you're seeing, and then they're like, we should know, we're from the future or whatever, like something like along those lines. I don't think that this one has any like really memorable, iconic sayings, but just the way that the kind of reveal of it, the way that they narrated, they had very good narrator voices.
Some
you
of
know
the
what I mean?
Things that you're saying, like, and we should know, we're from the future.
Well, yeah.
Or even, now that's what I call future living. And stuff like that. That, to me, there are some, I don't know if I would call them iconic for everyone.
Right.
But I do think they are standout moments.
Yes.
Which is always fun.
Yes, standout moment for sure. Because, like I said, it's like a reveal.
Yeah.
So this was my number 3, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
nice
just because I think that it's really fun.
Yeah, it is really fun.
And it's really non-debatable narration.
Yeah, it really is. They're disembodied. They literally guide you through every scene of the ride.
Yeah.
Horizons as a ride, obviously made a big impact on a lot of people.
You know, they had that song in the ride too, the Carousel of Progress song.
Yeah,
isn't that funny?
Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. I've heard from like everything that I've researched about the ride that the creators saw it as like a spiritual successor to the Carousel of Progress, and that it like took one family through the future kind of thing, which is cool.
Yes, you've mentioned that before, and I had never heard that, so it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and watch the ride.
Yeah.
Since that's the only way I can experience it now, and think of that while I'm watching it. You know what I mean?
I can't believe Epcot doesn't have like a VR experience where you can ride old rides.
I know.
Because it just seems like it's technology, it's retro Epcot, it's everything the park identity is right now. It'd be cool. Just saying. Maybe for like a fan event, you know how they do those sometimes.
Well, they should have it all the time once they figure it out.
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten through yet. So.
Yeah, it would be cool if the Odyssey could just, you know, be a tribute to Epcot.
That would be cool.
The Epcot experience.
I don't think the Odyssey is big enough to hold how many people would be interested in this kind of thing, but.
Well, look at One Man's Dream and Hollywood Studios. It's not slamming, it's not banging, it's not busy.
But that's not a VR ride.
Oh, yeah.
If you put VR rides to experience old attractions, I think the locals would go mad.
You're right.
And the, like, even non-locals that are nostalgic.
We won't have to worry about the line because it will be a virtual queue. Just like everything should be.
Yeah, maybe back in that building.
The Wonders of Life?
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh my gosh.
It would make a lot of sense. It's in Future World. It's not Future World anymore, but it would make sense. The location would make sense.
That's World Discovery now.
Yeah. Discover old rides.
Yeah.
Rediscover old rides.
Do you want to talk about Spaceship Earth?
Sure. That's my number 5. Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, Spaceship Earth I talked about this a lot when I did my research project thing on Spaceship Earth. Mm-hmm. Has gone through 3 different narrators. My personal favorite. Well, what's your personal favorite?
Is it 4? Because there was that one guy who did it for a little bit, and he was debated about being the first one with the other guy. And then there was Jeremy Irons, and then there was
Judi
Dench. That's what, 4?
That's 3. What was your 4th one?
I thought there was one guy and then another guy, and it was debated between the 2 of those guys which guy was the first guy.
It was debated which one of them was the first guy. That's it. Like, the debate was it Vic Perrin or was it somebody else?
Wow.
Yeah, can you believe?
I forgot.
How in the world?
How do you not know?
How does somebody not know? I get how, like, you or I might not know, or like whomever, but Disney doesn't know?
Seems weird.
So weird. Yeah, let me see if I can find my notes on it. But yeah, it was 3. My favorite's Jeremy Irons. Is that what you were gonna say, or is your favorite Judi Dench?
My favorite version of the ride is probably the Jeremy Irons version, or perhaps my favorite version of the ride.
I love his voice.
Is the version that was open for like a month, where the top of it was totally intact and everything was cool.
Oh,
you know
the one we didn't experience.
Yeah, the one we never got. The one from 1982 that we never got.
Right. No. 80. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I would say the Jeremy Irons version of the ride with its more effects and animatronics than the one that we have now is probably my favorite version. But I really do like the Judi Dench narration.
Okay, you do. Yeah, cool. I like both. I
don't know which one I like more.
I don't remember the first one, if I experienced it at all. I was trying to look up my notes because I had all the years and everything, but I can't find that note right now. So for me, it would be between the Jeremy Irons version and the Judi Dench version. I just think, I guess it's just nostalgia for me, to be honest.
I like it. No, the Jeremy Irons version was good too.
I love his voice.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Yeah. And do the iconic lines that we know of from the ride that are repeated throughout the versions, do you think they started with that version, or do you think they started with the version before? Because when we're saying things like "Thank the Phoenicians,"
that's just from the Judi Dench version. Is that your question?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought that was also from the Jeremy Irons version.
I don't think so. I could definitely be wrong, but I don't think so.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think that this ride depends on a narrator so heavily.
Yeah, I think the Grand and Miraculous, that might have been in both. And again, I don't know the first one, but I think that one was in both. But I think the Phoenicians was just the most recent one.
Okay.
But I will look it up later, and we will come back. There's something we were supposed to mention now that I say that from last time.
Spaceship Earth, I think, is there a ride where the narrator is like so heavily like
present
there throughout every single scene? Maybe not.
Yes.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah.
I'm looking upward on my list.
Yes, upward on my list as well.
Should we move on from the Grand and Miraculous Spaceship Earth?
Sure, we can.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
My number 4 is the Haunted Mansion.
Mine too.
Oh, nice. welcome, foolish mortals.
Yeah. He's very present.
It's iconic.
It's iconic, yeah.
This one, everyone knows.
I've already got a shirt that says, "There's always my way."
Yeah.
That's available on Neverland Navigation.
Yeah, check it out, the Etsy shop. There's so many iconic lines. The voice itself is instantly recognizable. The ghost host, there's a name of the narrator.
Yeah.
Ghost host.
Originally, that was the Raven.
Right.
It was supposed to be the Raven.
Sure.
Now, is there lore about who it is now? I think there is.
Who's the ghost host?
Yes.
Doesn't he say, "I am your ghost host"? Like who? Like whether it's Master Gracie or not?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I think that is the lore, but
this is like fan fiction, though, you guys.
I don't think it's real lore. I think it's
fan fiction,
conjecture.
Yeah. Okay.
But I love the ghost host. I love that the narrator has such a personality. I love that it's omnipresent throughout the entire experience. Great evil laugh.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities for character moments because the narrator has so much character. It's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
I wish, it's like if Pirates of the Caribbean were narrated by a pirate.
Yes.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah. I love it. I think that this probably has the most iconic sayings, like stuff you could repeat, put on shirts, whatever.
I agree.
Yeah. So...
And everyone knows the Haunted Mansion. It's such an iconic Disney attraction.
Right.
So the narration is one of the more recognizable, famous pieces of narration, probably, of anything.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Yeah.
Thorough Ravenscroft filling it.
Maybe the Thank the Phoenicians scene was in the Jeremy Irons version as well. I'm going to definitely get back to you guys on the next one. I will make a note right now.
Nice.
So that's both of our number 4s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And my number 3 we've already done because it was Horizons.
Right.
So what's your number 3?
All right, my number 3. I wonder if this is on your list. The Disney's MGM Studios Backlot Tour.
It's not on my list. Oh my gosh! Yeah.
The Backlot Tour. Okay, so in the 80s, when they were developing Hollywood Disney MGM Studios to compete with Universal Studios, it was a hybrid of a working movie studio and a theme park.
Right.
And
I miss that.
Yeah, cool concept.
I miss the theming.
Unfortunately, it wasn't very lucrative for them. They couldn't get anybody to film.
Yeah. I wouldn't even care that they weren't actually filming anything, but like
the theme,
yeah, the fake filming was good enough for me. Yeah.
And the tram tour originally, so Universal Hollywood had an iconic tram tour, so that's kind of what they were trying to replicate here. But this one was actually kind of more similar to an actual studio tram tour because there generally weren't like dioramas and show scenes like there are in the Universal one, except for one notable exception, which was called Catastrophe Canyon,
right?
Which was like a special effects demonstration stage that your tram kind of went to, and it simulated an earthquake and a fire and all the natural disasters combined, basically. But yeah, that was a really cool moment of it, and it was separated into a walking tour and a tram tour, where it would take you throughout the backlot, the New York backlot, which was then later renamed to the Streets of America when they opened it up for everyone to walk around in. But it was originally really only seen from the tram tour, and it was used as the backlot for scenes like The Lottery starring Bette Midler, which has like become a cult classic because of its involvement with MGM. But then as the tram tour went on, they were receiving a lot of guest complaints that it was too long, so they cut it into 2 separate attractions, the walking tour and the tram tour. And the tram tour always had an onboard narrator, someone who would sit at the very front of the cab behind the driver.
If you thought it was too long, why not just not go on it? Why complain and say it shouldn't be there for other people who liked it?
Because then this is the part that's Disney's fault, is that in between the 2 segments, the 2-hour tram tour and the 1 hour
2 hour
in the beginning.
Shut up.
2-hour tram tour, 1 hour walking segment. And once you were done with the first half, you couldn't leave for the second half.
Okay, I was unaware that it started out that long. I just remember what I remember.
Yeah, and the version that we probably remember best from the 90s and 2000s was a severely reduced version of the tram tour that had already cut out so much of its runtime. And especially, I don't know if you remember when they were first building the stadium for Lights, Motors, Action.
I do.
That was like the beginning of the end.
I know.
For the backlot tour, because it cut out a huge section of Production Central and the backlot itself. So the tour was shortened again. They completely got rid of Washington Square with the big arch that used to be back there. Well, right. I remember this like it was yesterday. But yeah, no matter what version of it, and there were versions all the way until 2013 or 2014 when it closed, every version had a narrator, and they would be cracking jokes and telling you about the movies.
Yeah, this is a really good one that I just forgot about.
It was like signature to Hollywood studios in a way that I think this is what I wanted from the Kilimanjaro. This is a Kilimanjaro Safari hate episode, and I didn't even mean it to be.
Whoops.
I'm just kidding. But I do love that the narration was so bubbly and playful and Hollywood razzle dazzle. And it was that way until it ended. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I don't think people remember the backlot tour very much.
Right.
Or maybe they do remember it, but there's no like tribute to it or anything. Disney just completely erased it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's remembered in this podcast. What's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 was Horizons.
Oh, right. I thought your number 5 was Horizons.
No, that was Spaceship Earth.
Right, okay. Do you want to move to your number 2?
Yeah, do you want me to say my number 2?
Do it.
Jungle Cruise.
Me too.
Yeah, I was like, our 1 and 2 have to be the same.
This one, it's like your whole job is being a great narrator.
Yeah, yeah. You're a narrator, a comedian, swim instructor.
Yeah, entertainer at large.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a not so great skipper, but sometimes you get a not so great skipper that doesn't have the comedic timing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or isn't like happy to be there and do the jokes over and over. I think you've got to be a certain kind of person.
Yeah, it totally depends on who you get.
Yeah. I feel like they probably, and I don't know this for sure, I definitely should ask one of our cast member connections, but I feel like they've got a script, but then are encouraged to go off script in a, tasteful, appropriate way. Yeah.
Definitely. I hear new jokes cycled through the Jungle Cruise set sometimes.
Or maybe Disney's giving them new jokes constantly.
I think it
might be a combination.
There must be a certain level of like improv skill that goes into it as well.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. I like it when the Jungle Cruise skipper interacts with the audience a little bit, but I know you don't like that.
Well, I don't want to be interacted with, but I don't mind. You know what I mean?
Like, I do. You want it to happen. You just don't want it to happen to you.
Yes, I don't want to be made fun of. I also have a really high level of empathy. And so if somebody else is being made fun of, I'm just going to feel uncomfortable because I'm going to feel bad. Yeah. So as long as it's not that, but I don't think I've seen that on Jungle Cruise. Have you?
No, there's like one instance I can think of where I had a Jungle Cruise skipper and a guest who was like frowny face, and the Jungle Cruise skipper was trying to make them laugh and smile, but they weren't having it. And anytime there's a situation like that, I always feel awkward.
Yeah.
I feel
it's an empathy thing. Yeah.
I don't like it.
Right.
So, but I think that was a super, kind of, I don't think that normally happens on Jungle Cruise. I think I had a rambunctious skipper.
I think that for the most part, they're trying to phase that out of Disney entirely. Because, they used to have the people at MGM that would make fun of people on the street.
Yeah, the citizens of Hollywood.
Yeah. Hated that.
Yeah.
I know. I just hated it because I actually got made fun of once. And
it's a brand of humor that I think is becoming less and less relevant.
Right.
Well.
Having 100 people laughing at you is not. It was one of my worst Disney experiences of my life.
Yeah, that sucks. In the 90s and 2000s, that was all the rage.
Yeah.
To have like insult comedy, roast comedy, But it's kind of fallen out of fashion anyway. So that's something that you can be glad about.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. I was never made fun of by the citizens of Hollywood, but if I were, I know it would have a lasting impact on me because I met the Grinch one time at Universal Studios when I was a child, and I think he was mean to me, and I think it made me not want to ever see the Grinch again.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get it.
Right. I mean, that made me not want to go back to MGM for a long time.
Yeah. When we were doing 50s Primetime Cafe, I remember that you were trepidatious about the experience.
I was.
There was live interaction.
And my memory of it from back in the 90s when I went with my family as a child, that I remember them giving everybody a hard time.
Right.
They might have been worse back then. Or maybe we just lucked out the times that we've gone since then.
Or maybe you had a really spirited, server at the time, and they were giving it a little bit more than was necessary. And, it was not a good experience for you.
Right.
Or maybe they were just more hardcore at the time.
Yeah, that wasn't one where I was getting made fun of or anything. That was just that one time with the citizens of Hollywood. But the servers at primetime, and I think this still happens, would give you a hard time for not eating all of your food and stuff like that,
elbows the clean on the table.
Yeah. And I don't know. I guess if a server was giving me a hard time about not cleaning my plate, I would be like, eh. You know what I mean?
It was so good, but I'm so full.
Yes, exactly, and that would be fine. But as a child, it was weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a different scenario when you're a child.
Right. I actually felt like I was being reprimanded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, if you went to school sometimes, you were.
Yeah.
Okay. That was your what? Number 3?
2.
Your number 2.
And your number 2.
And my number 2.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have the same number 1.
I knew we would.
Should we say it at the same time?
Sure.
3, 2, 1. The
Great movie ride. Oh, you threw the dot in there. Whoops.
Fall title.
Yep. I should have.
That's Showbiz Kid.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much can be said.
So much can be said. It's gonna be hard to keep it brief, but we're gonna have to do our best.
Well, yeah, it's fine. I think it deserves some time, so let's talk about it.
It is our number 1. I guess we should tell people why.
Yeah.
Obviously Disney's MGM. This has been such an MGM history-based episode. Turns out. But the Great Movie Ride. Wow.
Although, are any of them current? Any of the MGM ones current? No.
What do you mean?
We named a bunch of rides with narration that we love, and you're right. We've got a bunch of MGM ones historically, but none of them are current.
New. Yeah.
If you went into Hollywood Studios now, there's not really any rides with narration.
I considered throwing Tower of Terror on here, but the narration is so non-existent. You hear his voice during the ride time.
Okay.
When you're going into the elevator shaft, he's like, "You are now about to descend into the Twilight Zone," and then the doors close. And it gets dark.
Yeah, that's too big of a stretch, right?
Yeah, it's so barely narration.
It's like Thunder.
Yeah. And it's but it is cool that it's bringing back the pre-show into the ride.
And he says something at the end.
And he says something at the end. So I did consider that, but it's so sparse.
Right.
That I didn't think it was meaty enough to
I went through all of the ones that are there now in my head, and I was like, no. Yeah. So
I agree. But this is the big Cholula. When Disney's MGM Studios opened, the Backlot Tour was taking you through sets and costume racks and shops and actual vehicles used in the films and stuff, but the Great Movie Ride took you into the movies.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this was my favorite ride.
Yeah, me too. It had so much razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
So many animatronics, and the part that I liked about it best was that it was practically also a live theater show.
Yes.
Because of what we're about to talk about.
Right.
The narrator.
Right.
In its original form, you were in these big cars, very similar to the universe of energy vehicles, I would say.
I would say too. I would say that as well, yes.
The big Omnimover cars.
Yeah. It probably held 50 people.
Right. And
in one of them.
Kind of like a precursor to trackless Stark rides. Those big things that weren't on a visible track, but were being laser guided.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I always would think as a kid, how are we moving right now?
Yeah.
So I had one of those where you were kind of in a big group of people experiencing your ride.
Yeah.
And then at the front of the ride car, you had your own personal guide into the movie.
Yes. Yeah. So I think probably the coolest aspect of this is that your adventure could go one way or the other.
Yes.
So it's not even just that you had a narrator. That narrator was a full-on actor, probably getting paid actor, you think? Well, it does matter, but I'm not going to go into that. So
we'll speculate another time.
Yeah. So it could go one direction or another. You could have the gangster scene.
What happens there?
Oh man. So with the gangster scene, let me see if I can remember. So either way, you would start off with somebody in like a director outfit, is it director with the hat, or was it just movie backstage person?
Yeah, they were wearing, it was like almost, I wouldn't say an usher's outfit, but it was in that same vein of being, they were wearing like a newsboy's cap or something.
Yeah.
It was just, I would say, period garb, maybe, like clothes of the time, and it felt very like they were
movie set. Yeah.
Film intern from the 50s or something.
Yeah, or earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you wind up getting into trouble at some point, either a gangster area or a Wild West. Is that what you would call? Yeah.
Yes.
In that instance, your cast member, your narrator person, your guide is not there anymore, and there's another person that takes over. So
your car gets hijacked.
Yes, your car gets hijacked. That's perfect. Yes. In both situations, right? It's that you kind of stumble on a robbery gone wrong.
Yes.
Both of them are that way, right?
I think so. The gangster one may just be a shootout. I don't know that it's robbery, but like why are the police show up as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole situation.
I'm thinking that both of them were a robbery gone wrong, but you're right, it could not be.
The saloon one definitely is a robbery because the actor playing the bandit kicks open the saloon doors and has like a sack of stuff or something. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's like a whole little play that they do in the ride for you.
Yes, every time. You know what I mean? Like they must have been doing it just like on repeat.
Yes.
Crazy. So then one or the other of these characters hijacks and takes over your vehicle, and then they're with you for the next 3 or 4 scenes.
Couple scenes, yeah.
Yeah, and then
couple movies.
And then your original person makes it back to you. I guess there's no spoilers since it's not really.
I was just thinking, you can spoil it. It's gone.
It's gone.
I want people to know how exciting it was.
So there's the Indiana Jones scene.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the scene where it happens?
Yeah,
or is it right after that? Well, it's kind of right after that in like a generics.
There's like an Indiana Jones hallway that gets you into the temple. And then you're in this temple.
And you go through like the alien scene with your hijacker.
Gangster or bandit.
And they're like scared of the alien.
Right.
So they're still acting. You know what I mean? They're not just sitting there with you. And first they come on and tell you they're going to take your stuff. The gangster would be like
wallets and pockets,
and they've got the accent, like a Jersey maybe accent.
Put your hands in the air, see?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and telling you that they're going to take your wallets and jewels and stuff.
And then shoot out the traffic light, and they say, no,
"Do they
looks
both
green to me?"
Do they both shoot out the?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, both ways. You'll wind up in that the alien scene.
Yes.
Anyway,
that's one of the parts I enjoyed the most because, first of all, you're like, well, this is weird. I've got a new guide, so it's already interesting. But
it's already weird. Then you're in like a horror movie.
And they're reacting so strongly.
I mean, I guess it's not a horror movie. It's like a thriller, right?
It's the most suspenseful part of the ride.
Yes,
sure.
And it was scary for me as a child.
Yeah, and then when you've got the grown actor like shrieking at the alien and stuff, it adds to the illusion for sure.
Right.
But this reveal that you're talking about where your original guide comes back, in my opinion, was always like one of my favorite parts in the movie because it was movie magic.
Yes.
Like actual movie
And
magic.
they say that.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really is.
Yeah.
They sell it. So like, okay. So your gangster or your bandit is distracted
right.
by this
jewel
that is being
glowing,
guarded by this hooded, like, guardian of
Pharaoh.
The jewel.
Yeah,
yes,
it's like that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they go up and they say, "Stay here. I'm going to get a closer look," being like they're going to go try to steal it or something.
Yeah.
And then they go up, and the hooded figure goes, "Halt!"
Yeah.
Non-believer. Mess with the gods and pay with your life, or something like that. And then they go to grab it.
And this is all like an Egyptian scene.
Right. You're in like a temple type.
And it's like at the top of a pyramid.
Yeah. It was a decadently laid out scene. Like you
right.
felt like you were there.
And then, behind you was a hidden Mickey and Donald, I think, in the Egyptian hieroglyph.
And like C-3PO or something.
Yes, something wild. Okay.
Yeah. And then they go up to reach the jewel, and then a plume of smoke shoots out, and there's some dramatic music playing, and you realize that the bandit or gangster has been turned to
a skeleton
with their hands still up on the jewel.
Yes.
And that's when what happens?
And then that's when the hooded person takes the hood off, and you see it's your original cast member, your original guide.
Yes.
And they're
everyone cheers.
Yes, and then they say something about movie magic, and
how's that for movie magic?
Yeah, something like that. Then you continue on and you go through the horror scene, right? And then Wizard of Oz and all that.
Tarzan and the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz scene is also, I think, where your original cast member has to do their second round of heavy hitting. Because in the first one, they have to get held up by the gangster or the bandit, and they have a whole scene to do. And then when they do this whole acting scene where they have to, do the hooded reveal, and then, now here we go again, they have a one-on-one confrontation with the Wicked Witch of the West.
Right. Who's an animatronic.
Who's a really scary animatronic who appears in a cloud of smoke and says, "Who killed my sister?" And does her whole...
And is blaming your tour guide.
Right. Go on now, you have no power here. You run along before someone drops a house on you, too. That's what your guide would have to say to the Wicked Witch of the West.
And then she reacts, the animatronic. So yeah, it's got to be timed really well.
They have to do a whole dialogue scene with the Wicked Witch of the West animatronic, and it has to be in character, timed out. Oh man, it was
amazing. It was a lot. It's the only situation, or the only ride I feel like there was the acting, and you were right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and by the way, you're in a full-scale recreation of the Munchkinland set.
Yes.
Like, it's so impressive on all accounts.
Yeah, it was like a little show for this, 50 people, constantly.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
This was our Rise of the Resistance. Before there was Rise of the Resistance, I didn't feel like there was anything that was so multi-part, and all of these live elements and special effects, animatronics, set design, screens, everything was happening in this ride. And the narrator truly was, they were the star of the experience because they led you back to Hollywood safety.
Yes. Yeah. It was phenomenal.
Magical. Totally magical.
Yeah. And then at one point, so before Turner Classic Movies took over, there wasn't the pre-recorded part where that was the guy from Turner Classic Movies. But then they added that. But then you still had cast member interaction. It was still the same story. It was just kind of less. Right?
Yes. Where instead of... So I remember specifically... I never got to experience the Turner Classic Movies version of this attraction. But I have listened to the audio a bunch because...
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
But wasn't that the last way it was?
Yes, but it didn't begin until I think 2009, which is the exact year I stopped going.
Oh, for a while, yeah. Just a few years.
For that last decade of the Great Movie Ride, I was not around for that, so I didn't get to experience it. Never got to say goodbye to the Great Movie Ride. The last time I rode it was as a child in its original version. But I have experienced the narration of the Turner Classic Movies version, and I just feel like it's a lot of... your guide is still doing color commentary and doing all the live bits, but any movie fact for any of the scenes that you're in, it's the Turner Classic Movie
And the Turner Classic Movie guy kind of takes over when, like, in the alien scene.
Exactly.
Because it wouldn't make sense for your bandit or whatever to know anything about Alien. So he's talking about, the Turner Classic Movie guy is talking about Sigourney Weaver and whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's also, I remember on the original version, wasn't it your bandit or gangster would make a joke when you got there. I don't like the sound of this alarm or whatever. And then you would go through the scene pretty much in complete silence. It was just that loud, blaring alarm.
Well, I think that there was always a few kind of jokey things that he said, but then they would like sit down for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that got replaced by Turner Classic Movies narration.
Yeah.
About the movie Alien.
Yeah.
Which, fine.
Yeah, they blur a little bit to me, to be honest. The old version before Turner Classic Movies and then after.
Yeah.
But yeah. Basically.
Yeah. And then and that was the biggest scene that was the biggest thing that changed in that update, other than they updated the
montage.
Thank you,
which I loved the montage. It has nothing to do with narration, but that was like my favorite part.
But the narration of this, your host into your guide into the movies, the constant actual dialogue that they had to do, the guiding of the experience, talking about this is this actor from this, because in the very beginning they're like, that's Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain. They're just telling you about the movie, so they have to do that too,
right?
Which is kind of cool.
Would you have loved to do this?
This is the thing I wanted to do the most.
Yeah, I could really see you doing this.
Thank you. But when I was a kid and I was experiencing this attraction over and over because it was my favorite, I would be begging to go on this all the time. I really saw myself being like, well, if I ever work at Disney, this is what I would want to do. I always thought that about this.
And this is another one where I didn't want to be in the front row because I didn't want the gangster or bandit to be like personally talking to me.
When I was reading the script, I hope this makes you feel better. There is a note that says, do not interact with the guests in the front row because the rest of guests in the car will feel left out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So, but they definitely did that sometimes.
All the time. I remember it all the time.
I wonder if that was added at some point because they got some feedback.
They saw, yeah, maybe.
See, it wouldn't be I'd be fine with feeling left out. I just don't want to, I don't know. I just don't want everybody looking at me.
Yeah, which is I think I know a lot of people share that same sentiment. So that's probably why it's been phased out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was interesting to read. It's really the Great Movie Ride. It always comes back to the Great Movie Ride on this show because no one ever really talks about it, but it was huge budget, huge. Like I said, it was our Rise of the Resistance.
Yes, it had everything. You know what I mean? Like it was. Yeah, it was just huge. It was just like a such fanfare and animatronics and different movies and the songs and the montage and the acting. It's just like so much.
You do every time I walked away being like, wow.
Yeah.
That was everything happened.
And it fit the theming of MGM or Hollywood Studios perfectly.
Right, and then you walk out onto Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
Well, hey, we got through this list. Oh, do you have any honorable mentions we never got to bring up before we depart?
Oh, yeah, I've got a debatable one.
Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't say this, actually. Muppet Vision.
Oh, see, I didn't do shows.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's fine.
Are you saying the narrator of Muppet Vision 3D is Kermit the Frog?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He definitely starts your tour through the movie.
And it is kind of a tour. You know what I mean?
It's a tour of the Muppet Labs. That is definitely the premise.
Yeah.
If I would have had any shows on here, obviously I would have put Muppet Vision.
Yes.
Because I love that attraction. I'm wearing my Muppet shirt today.
Yeah, which is why another reason I thought you for sure would mention it.
I should have worn my Great Movie Ride shirt, but how
many
I
thought for sure you would. How many honorable mentions do you have?
I have 3.
Okay, go ahead. I've got 2
more. So I'm not doing that one.
Well, still.
My 2 are not rides, and that's why I didn't put them on my list, but they are notable narrations. The first one being the Disney Skyliner. I like the narration on that.
Oh my gosh, it so often doesn't work that I didn't even think of it.
Yeah.
Like, so this narration plays individually in each Skyliner bucket, I'm going to say. And very often, I want to say 50% of the time you get in one and there's no narration.
Right, or it kicks on like halfway through.
Yeah,
you're like,
weird,
oh, hello
weird.
there. I didn't realize this was narrated.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, but go on.
I just enjoy. I like Disney informational.
Yeah.
Speech.
Me too.
I know that's funny, but like I don't know when I'm in the resorts, I want to be watching the Disney informational channel.
No, I know, me too. No.
And I loved them as a child. I thought they were so like enthralling, and I like couldn't stop watching them.
Yes, them so yeah, much. No, I'm like that too. So you're not the only one. So obviously, a lot of our listeners are going to be like this as well.
And I feel like the Skyliner is a little bit of that.
Yeah, it gives you some information about different things in the park.
Yeah, and they're describing each resort as you pass by.
Yeah,
it definitely gives me that same kind of energy. And I can just get the other one out of the way because it relates to the monorail.
Yeah, the monorail is one of the. I was going to say this. Yeah. That one's on my list too. Iconic. Please stand clear of the doors.
Right. You can't talk about narration at Disney World without talking about the monorail.
Right. Oh, I hate to. My last one is a really dumb one to end on, but here we are.
Is it?
Figment.
Are you talking about Nigel Channing?
Yes, and I'm only talking about it because of Nigel Channing.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because I just feel like he deserves a mention.
Do you know what he thinks about Figment?
What does he think?
There was this tweet forever ago talking about, this was years ago now, talking about Figment, and Eric Idle goes, oh, I remember.
Is that him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I go misremember and think they're talking about a different purple dragon from a different piece of animation they work on.
No way.
So he replies with something incorrect. And then the fans go, oh my god, you don't remember Figment? And then he replies with, I don't remember that little purple effer. Talking about Figment.
Maybe he doesn't get a spot on my list then.
I guess he doesn't really care for his time with Figment, or didn't care about it at the moment or whatever. Or maybe just truly doesn't remember filming it.
Well, it
was a while ago.
He was involved in the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yes.
So I thought it was cool that he, continues then to Figment.
Right.
That sucks. That sucks.
It just made me laugh at the time.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, I just think that I don't know. I like the character.
Figment?
No, well, yes, but no.
Eric Idle's character?
Yes.
Dr. Nigel Channing?
Yes, and I like that he was part of both of those rides.
Yeah, I wish he had a better ride to be in. You know what I mean?
No, not if he's like that.
No, I meant when he did it the first time.
Okay.
I wish that incarnation of Journey into Imagination would have been a little bit more, I don't know, different than it is now. Because it's shown that it doesn't last. You know what I mean? It feels very ready to be changed. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, and this is a very corny character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he delivers in the attraction.
Yeah.
I like his character. I think Figment.
I think his character fits here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well cast.
Yeah.
I think Figment is maybe not written to be. I feel like Figment is kind of written as an annoyance in the new Journey into Imagination, where he's constantly bothering Nigel Channing.
Yeah.
In different ways.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I agree with that.
Maybe that's why he was talking about him like that.
Oh, he was in character.
Yeah, he was in character.
Yeah. So like I don't know if I agree with that characterization of Figment, but I definitely think if they were going to go that direction, Nigel Channing being like, Figment, stop all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely adds up.
Yeah. We'll see if it gets if the movie comes out that we're supposedly getting with Seth Rogen.
Right.
Seth Rogen's
Producing.
Figment movie. Yeah.
Right.
If we get that, if that inspires a ride change, and then if there's a ride change, if Dr. Nigel Channing would even be in it, I don't know. But I just thought it would land in honorable mentions because it does seem like he's narrating the ride, and then Figment keeps interrupting him or whatever. And I thought the character was goofy in a way that really fit.
Yeah, he does a good job for sure.
Yeah.
Imagination is a blast.
Yeah, so I guess that's it.
Yeah, this has been a blast. This was a fun episode.
Yeah.
We talked so much about the history and the past of everything, but also it was fun to talk about. Now, I almost included Cosmic Rewind on here.
Oh, really?
But that is not narration.
No.
Fully just dialogue. And that's the reason I kept
it is
off.
Full dialogue, yeah, for the whole thing. But if you can't really pick one person that's doing it, which you can't in that, then
not narrating.
Yeah,
definitely.
Although there's definitely 2 in Horizons, but
that actually I think
that's
made it so much more dynamic and interesting. That's one of the reasons that I think it is up so high on my list, the Horizons one.
Yeah,
because having them bounce off of each other, I think, provides something that the Disney attractions had not had to that point, which was multiple narrators. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And innovative.
Interesting. More interesting.
Yeah. They're the inspiration of our TikTok account. Because whenever we do history videos, it's just one of us says one thing and the other says the other thing. And when I think about it, it's really similar in rhythm to what was going on in Horizons.
And we're also from the future.
Yeah. This is how we're telling you. The podcast is doing even better than you could ever possibly realize.
Yeah.
And if you believe that you've had a good time listening to the podcast, then you should leave us a review.
What a good segue.
On whatever listening platform that you are receiving this podcast on. 5 stars, review, subscribe, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
That'd be awesome.
Or if you want to find us on Instagram, we are Neverland Navco.
Yeah.
That's also TikTok.
Right. Yeah. And there's trivia on there, short form stuff, Disney history stuff. It's a great time.
Yeah.
And if you want to see the visual version of the podcast, I know this episode is all about voices, but if you want to see our faces, then you can also go to our YouTube channel, Neverland Navigation Co. Yeah, you'll find us there.
And our Etsy shop is Neverland Navigation. We already talked about it, but
multiple times, and gave you some examples of shirts that you can order. But there's also custom orders. So if you need a t-shirt,
we mostly do custom orders. So if you have something in mind, or a Disney fan, go to Neverland Navigation on Etsy and send us a message and tell us what's your favorite ride, and we will send you some ideas.
Yeah. Or if you need, group shirts for your next
We do a lot of group shirts, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I can imagine that. People need those.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hey. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
And until next time, we'll see you
on our next adventure.
Bye.
Bye.